If I were moving to Lubbock today, I don't know if I would live where I do now. And when I went to buy, I would definitely make a lot of different changes. This video is not just about the best places to live, it's actually about where I would choose to live at different stages of life and why. And you guys have met Olivia before, but she wanted to say hello to everybody. And she's on this picture right behind me as well. But she's got a little bow in her hair, so I kind of wanted to show it off. So if you don't know me yet, I'm Andrew Baxter. I'm a local realtor in Lubbock, Texas. And I've seen and done just about all of it in my tenure as a real estate agent. So that makes me a self-dubbed professional. But I have my real estate license and everything. So I did the work to get where I'm at. But I do know Lubbock quite well because I sell quite a lot of houses there. So today I'm sharing my honest perspective I wish more people, and myself included, would have heard before they moved and bought. So let's start with where I live now and where I'm thinking about moving to. So I'm not gonna tell you guys exactly where I live because there's some crazies out there and I don't want anybody knowing that. Especially now that I got myself a woman to take care of. So I live somewhere in South Lubbock between 98th or around 98th Street and two major streets. I'm not gonna say which ones are which. Do I love the house that I purchased 3 years ago? Yes, I absolutely do. Has it been great for me? 100%. However, I wish that I would have probably planned to have purchased something bigger initially because as you guys know, I started a family and who knows when little baby Andrews are gonna pop out and be running around with their red heads. I don't know. I wish I could tell you, but it's the Lord's timing. I'm telling you, the Lord is gonna be timing that. So, thinking about all that, once I have one or maybe two pop out, maybe I get twins, I'm gonna be like, man, I wish I would have got more house. Now, ideally, I can buy another one without selling the one I have. I'd like to keep that as a rental. However, you just never know what is gonna happen. And obviously, we're in a relatively down real estate market. I've been able to stay afloat. Thank you to all of my loyal clients and friends, frankly. So yeah, I've been able to do business and stay alive in this real estate market, which has been great. However, I do wish I kind of would have bought something bigger initially. So the reason that I initially chose this specific neighborhood is because one, I just really like the houses in the neighborhood. I thought it was great. It is in South Lubbock. It's in Lubbock Cooper ISD. There's fescue grass, there's trees, there's a really nice neighborhood very close by. Mine's not quite as nice. However, all of these things had me thinking, long-term appreciation walking down the road, this thing's gonna be worth a lot more than it is right now. I also was able to get a pretty smoking deal on it because it sold kind of off market. My broker kind of hooked me up with it. So that was another big reason I purchased it. We're gonna say these southern neighborhoods around 98th Street. I'm not gonna dox myself, but really any of these neighborhoods, they're all very comparable. I got approved between 250 and 300, so it worked very well for me. In newer part of town, it's quiet, that's why I really dug it. So the neighborhood I live in is called Lakewood Estates, and we actually own some rental property in that neighborhood as well. It's just been a fantastic neighborhood. It is south of town in a great area. I'd highly recommend it. It's in that 250 to 300 range, but like I said, as my family grows, as I potentially have children here pretty soon, little Andrews, I'm going to want a bigger house because I didn't quite get as big of one as I wanted initially. And I wish I would have thought about that beforehand and been like, man, I could live in this place for 10 years and have 2 or 3 kids in it, as opposed to being like, I could have one and then I'd want something bigger. So now obviously I'm thinking about where could I move me and my family in the next year, maybe next couple of years if we start having kids, and the neighborhoods that I'm considering as I go into my late 20s to really where I'm like a full-fledged adult, where people look at me and go, that's not a kid anymore. That's not a young 20-something yuppie kid. That's an adult. That's an adult male. Look at him go. Kind of that stage phase of my life where I'm getting into. So neighborhoods that I would be considering right now in my late 20s, kind of early 30s. I've talked about it plenty of times before. There are great neighborhoods for every person looking for something different. In your early 20s, like a Tech Terrace would be fantastic. I could have lived in Tech Terrace. I wanted to buy a newer house, not like a potentially 70-year-old house, 80-year-old house. So I went with something that was newer, and I feel like that's gonna benefit me in the future. However, there are great neighborhoods everywhere for all walks of life. I'm just thinking my personal, where I would move next, literally where I would buy a house next. And that neighborhood would be, yes, I keep beating this dead horse, but that'd be Kelsey Park. I think it's in Lubbock Cooper. It's got an amazing park, an amazing atmosphere, very homey. There's just a lot of cool stuff there. The price ranges of the neighborhood are not too crazy, but there's a big range between the kind of lower end stuff, which is still higher end in Lubbock, and the higher tier stuff, which I'll be shooting for maybe in 10 years or something like that. But all around, like, I'm thinking, where do I want to raise a couple kids? I'd want to be in that neighborhood specifically in Lubbock Cooper ISD. If I'm doing Friendship, which is also a great school district, and I vouch for both of them equally, I think they're both fantastic, I would go for a Preston Manor. Now, the one drawback of Preston Manor that would keep me from, and this is kind of keeps me away from Wolf Earth, is that there is an HOA. It is pretty pricey. They do have really great, cool amenities, but I'm not the kind of guy that's gonna go to the clubhouse and sit by the pool. I know myself personally. You might be, and Preston Manor might be a great one for you. Not gonna be me. So maybe when I'm 40 or 45 or 50 or whatever, I'd move to a neighborhood like that. But in the meantime, I really like Kelsey Park and everything over there. So obviously that's gonna hurt my bank account a bit because it's gonna be way pricier, way pricier than where I've bought now. Probably 1.5 to 2 times more expensive than what I own now. But what I'm getting in terms of the neighborhood feel, you know, the amenities in terms of being close to the restaurants I like going to, and the big park that you can like ride a bike in or do an electric scooter or whatever you want to do in that park. So maybe if you're somebody who's thinking like, oh, I've heard a lot of good things about Tech Terrace. I love the style in that neighborhood. I love the style of houses, blah, 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 but I want a bigger yard. You know, you want to probably look further out of town. As I've always said, south, southwest, kind of the growing. Northwest is, you know, good. Really everywhere is a good. Okay, you're finding good spots everywhere outside of Lubbock. But, you know, inside the city limits, you're going to be a little bit limited, more limited than you would be if you went a tad bit further away. But what if I were starting fresh and I'd never actually been to Lubbock, Texas? What would I do then? Where would I move? I don't know anything. I maybe found this weird redheaded guy on YouTube and I've been watching all his videos and I'm like, dude, tell me where I should move. Well, you're gonna wanna stay tuned for this. So if I were a first-time home buyer, never been to Lubbock, moving to Lubbock for the first time in 2025, I would move to one of 3 neighborhoods. And the first one would be Vintage Township, which I've talked about at length. Now, this can give, for someone who's never been to Lubbock before, we don't have a ton of HOAs. I know I've already talked about a previous HOA in this video, but we don't have a ton of them. Vintage does have an HOA, and rightly so, it should, because it's a really nice manicured neighborhood that has a lot of style that's only unique to this specific neighborhood. But why Vintage is because it's vicinity to everything on 114th and Quaker, which is a really cool area. You got restaurants, you've of course got the new HEB, the newer HEB. I don't want to call it new anymore. It's like 2.5 years old. But that's a big deal. You can literally walk to it from Vintage Township. So I feel like if you just want to get a general feel, you're smack dab in the middle of where everything's growing, I would do Vintage Township. Now you're getting like 300 to up to 700 price range. You can find a really good townhome style type house, honestly, for around 350 grand in this neighborhood, which a lot of people moving from out of the city, that's really good for them. So I would move to Vintage. If I'd never been to Lubbock before, boom, Vintage Township. Okay, another one that I would consider, and this is because the price range is a bit better, is gonna be Fox Ridge. It's down 98th Street, east of University. And I like this neighborhood a lot because it's way more affordable and the houses are newer and very nice. So you do have a neighborhood of duplexes close by called Stonewood Estates, and those are also very new and nice. And you know, if you're an investor, you want to get one of those. And also, honestly, if I was buying for the first time, I would probably buy a duplex and live in one side and rent the other out. That's called house hacking. It's an amazing way to get some awesome real estate experience and buy a good deal. So that's probably what I would do. But Fox Ridge has awesome single family homes ranging from 225 to 350, all sorts of stuff. And it's still in the newer area. It's actually in kind of a quieter part of town. And one cool thing about Fox Ridge is it's close to a concert venue and cool bar called Cook's Garage, and a lot of folks rave about Cook's Garage. A lot of famous Texas country singers and just famous people in general, singers, go to Cook's Garage and they play concerts, and they be doing their string thing. It's mostly cowboy type folks, but it's just a cool concert venue. You can get a couple beers, drink some water afterwards if you're planning on driving home, or get you an Uber, get you a cowboy Uber, yeehaw. The third neighborhood I would pick would be one I've also talked about before. It's called Primrose Point. This one's kind of very close to 82nd in Milwaukee, and I like this one too because you're just around everything that Milwaukee has to offer, and there's a ton of newer stuff there that's very nice. This is a very happening part of town that I visit quite often because I don't know if you know this or if you can't tell by just watching me through the camera. I'm kind of a happening type guy. So you find me in the happening parts of town. That's just inevitable. It's gonna happen. So that's kind of where I hang out a lot. There's a little Woodrow's over there, which is a really cool bar. There's a bunch of nice restaurants that I like going to, taking clients to, all that jazz, going with my buddies, maybe grabbing a brewski, and then drinking some liquid IV afterwards, or calling it a Lyft or an Uber. But I really like this Primrose Point neighborhood, and I also very much enjoy the price range, which is very comparable to Fox Ridge. You're probably looking at $250 to $400. You might get a little bit higher than that, but everything's gonna be mostly a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 4. You're not really finding any 5 bedrooms, massive ones. It's a great place to start. And that doesn't mean it's a starter neighborhood by any means. It's a very established neighborhood, but that would be the third neighborhood I would move to if I'd never been to Lubbock before. You're obviously watching this video, you got your own subjective experience going on. You've had your own life. Like, who are these neighborhoods good for? A young couple, a remote worker, an older couple, maybe a retired couple? I think they fit for everybody. You know, specifically, they do fit for everybody. However, I think these neighborhoods would be better for younger couples, maybe people just starting families. So they'd be good for me too. But for maybe middle-aged to older folks, I might focus on some other parts of town. In terms of a lot of these neighborhoods, the reason I picked these is because they're just close to everything that's important right now to a lot of Lubbockites or Lubbonians, whatever you would call us, the Lubbock folks. We know everything's about 15 minutes away from each other, so nothing's that crazy. And I understand how absolutely overwhelming relocating can be if you're moving here for a job, if you're just moving because you like it. But if you're just thinking about moving in general, I do understand how overwhelming relocating can be, which is why if I was thinking about relocating to Lubbock, I would call someone who knew a lot about moving to or living in Lubbock, Texas, and that would be me, Andrew Baxter, the guy who you're watching on TV right now or the computer. And my number is right here. Me or my team will answer it and we can set up a phone call. My email is also included. I really like getting emails, and we will just go from there and we will figure out how to get you from wherever that you are in the country. You might be out of the country, to Lubbock, Texas, safe and sound with a nice house. Okay, let's talk about a different group of folks that are active buyers in Lubbock, Texas. And we're still in the younger area. These are people maybe who are just graduating college. Maybe they're still in college, but they got enough change to buy a house. Where would I want to be if I was in my early 20s if I could do it all over again? What neighborhood specifically would I want to be in and why? So let's just get this one out the gate. We know it, we love it, we've seen it, we've looked at houses in it. That's Tech Terrace. The #1 neighborhood I would want to be in if I was in my early 20s again would be Tech Terrace. Now, not just because there's a bunch of college girls all around or anything like that. It's actually a very quiet neighborhood if you find the right spots, but it's just a solid location, very close to the university, close to the bars that are close to the university. And if you're in your early 20s, you know, you're probably relatively rowdy and you might not drink, which would be a great thing, but there's great parks around here. There's a lot of young folks in the area throwing frisbee and baseball and, you know, throwing the football in the parks and just walking. It's just very vibrant, youthful area, which I think is very cool. You're inevitably going to hear and run into some loud, obnoxious frat college people. It happens all over the town actually, but this is a concentrated area for it. But in your early 20s, that stuff's kind of cool and it's fun. And I'm the type of extrovert person where I like to be around a lot of people all the time. So for me, it'd be great. So parents, if you're watching this, buying a house for your son, maybe daughter, this is a neighborhood I would consider, but also don't forget to call me first, because I've actually quite a few of my last deals have been parents purchasing for their kiddos. So this is kind of a category for you guys. Another neighborhood, the second one I would look at, and I've actually lived in both Tech Terrace and the second one in college, was North Point. That's the second one. North Point, if you go all the way up Slide and hit Erskine, you're gonna hit North Point. And the reason I like this neighborhood a lot is because it's a newer neighborhood in terms of newer than Tech Terrace. The houses here are 20, 25 years old, maybe 10, 15, 20 years old. But it's a lot quieter. You're still getting some college folks, mostly grad students, med students, people who want to be close to the med school, because guess what, folks? It's very close to the med school. It's also close to the business college, which is where I piddled away 2.5 years of my life at Texas Tech University. So it was great for me to drive from the neighborhood I lived in to go waste my time at the business school. It was fun. I had a good time. Did I learn a lot that's helped me now? Not necessarily, but Texas is still a great school. I just didn't personally benefit from it, but that's okay, because you might, or your child might. Anyways, North Point's awesome. I think it provides a good amount of a safety net in terms of you feel like, you know, as opposed to buying in Tech Terrace where you're thinking, God, I want to buy an 80-year-old house. That seems like a massive headache. While a lot of those houses have been worked on and the proper updates have been installed and taken care of, it still can be a little bit daunting to think that you're going to buy something that's 80 years old. So North Point would be number 2. That's where I would go if I was in my early 20s, again, because I'm still super close to the university. Number 3 would be Pleasant Ridge, and this is one that I really haven't talked about all that much at all, but if you go down 19th Street and get close to Slide, you're gonna see a park called Higginbotham Park, and we have talked about that. And what's on the west side of Higginbotham Park is the neighborhood Rush, which is really nice. It's kind of old money Lubbock, big old houses, $1 million houses, nice fescue grass, big old trees, big old lots, all that jazz. But east of the park, and the pond, actually, it's more of a pond, you're gonna find Pleasant Ridge, and this neighborhood is very affordable. There are great houses in the neighborhood. You're seeing a lot of younger folks move into this neighborhood, redo houses, because the older folks, it's just life, are getting older and dying or moving to retirement homes, so younger people are kind of coming in, snatching them up, flipping them, or just putting some work into them. It's becoming a relatively vibrant, youthful area that's very affordable. This would be kind of like a hidden gem that I would put as a hidden gem, Pleasant Ridge. Something to consider. You're looking at, you can get houses in the 190s, in the 220s, in the 300s. There's a lot of variety to pay, depending on how big something is and maybe where it is, but that would be another one I would pick, and it's of course close to Texas Tech, which is what we're kind of talking about here if we're in our early 20s. Now, it's not just because this is close to the university, there's also tons of professional stuff over in these areas, these specific neighborhoods. It's not just like, I want to be close to Tech, so I want to go drink with the college girls. That's not just it. There's a lot of businesses around the university. There's a lot of businesses just even further, just a bit further away. The Rawls golf course is close by, and I do like to play golf, although I'm terrible at it. I go to the Rawls all the time. So these are things that I'm thinking about, I'm considering when I'm like, yo, I'm young. Okay, we've hit the 20s and the 30s. Now let's fast forward maybe to something a little bit different. Let's go back to the future. And where would you live if you're an empty nester? If your birdies had just flown the coop and they're trying to fly on their own, where are you gonna go? What are you gonna do? Well, fortunately, I'm here and I'm about to tell you. And the first neighborhood that I would consider moving to, without a doubt, if I was an empty nester, and this would be a great one to just have kids in too, but it'd be Lake Ridge. It would be Lake Ridge Country Club Estates. This is the neighborhood that's just kind of surrounding Lake Ridge. It's a fantastic area. Lake Ridge is a country club. It's got a community feel, community vibe. People go there to play golf. They keep the golf course in pretty good shape. Now, I like the houses here because you do have a wider range, but if it's the lots in this neighborhood and the size of the street, like the width of the street in this neighborhood, just seems like you're not in Lubbock, Texas. It feels like you're in a suburb in Dallas, to be honest, with the trees and the grass and the shade. and it just doesn't feel like you're kind of in the desert. It feels like you're in a very nice suburb area. And of course, you're on a golf course, so that comes with all of the perks of being close to or on a golf course. It's a good, solid spot that I would highly consider. The next neighborhood would be Ransom Canyon, and I've talked about this one, but not so much. We honestly don't talk about Ransom Canyon all that much, but it is east of town. It's pretty far east of town, and it's a really unique, probably the most unique neighborhood in Lubbock because it's very hilly, and there is a lake that we are actually close to, which that's unheard of in Lubbock, Texas. It's like, oh my gosh, there's a body of water? That's nuts. That's absolutely bonkers. But yes, there is. So these houses can range from 400 to 600 to 7 to 8 to 9 to $1 million, depending on what you get. There's some really nice houses over here, very cool. But I mean, just the pros of being by a body of water. You get to feel the breeze when it's windy and it comes off the water, and that's pretty cool. You can take a boat out, you can take your jet ski out, you can grill some burgers and be smoking a cigar, drinking a Modelo Especial while you're watching people do all this. It's just a really cool area. I would definitely look into it if you're an empty nester, or if you're not and you just kind of want to be by body of water in Lubbock. The third one is going to be actually kind of rounding back to the first one. It'd be Kelsey Park. I would definitely just be considering this neighborhood all the time. It would be up there on my list. Look into it, think about it. Already talked about it, but if I'm an empty nester, really if I'm anybody, I'd be thinking about Kelsey Park. Okay, so now that we've kind of covered a lot, if not all of the age ranges, I know we did young. The middle one was kind of tended to be 30, 40, like next phase of life, raising children. That was supposed to be number one. And then we kind of went back, and then we went back further, and then we went all the way this way. But now we're just going to be talking about the neighborhoods that we haven't really discussed. I haven't talked about in a lot of videos that are great, that I would consider if I'm in any stage of life. So the first one of these is going to be a newer area because there's a new high school and it's in Friendship, and it's called Uptown West. And this one's not talked about all that much because we think, you know, south, southwest is where stuff's moving. Well, this one's just kind of west of town a little bit, but a new high school is very close by. So whenever something's new and it's affordable, I almost said cheap, but it's not cheap, it's affordable. But like around the 250 mark, that's a neighborhood I would consider if I'm anybody, because you know, a brand new house around 250 grand that's big and nice and in a great area, how could you not consider that? So Uptown West is close to a new high school that's being built in the Friendship School District. I would highly consider looking into that one. Another one is going to be Tanglewood, and I have touched on this one a bit, but the houses in Tanglewood are big and nice, and it's just tucked away. Like, it's just a quiet little pavilion almost while you're driving by it, but it's a nice tucked away, beautiful type area that I would also very much recommend looking into if you're at any stage of life. You're gonna find some garden homes in here. You're gonna find some nice single family homes in here. They're gonna be quite expensive. So just make sure you got the bags loaded, but think about that. So obviously there's no one size fits all answer to the age old question of where should I buy, but hopefully this video gave you a little bit more insight into what kind of neighborhood is gonna fit the stage of life that you are specifically in right now. And I have helped people from early 20s to their 60s, 70s. And so I've seen it all, and I kind of can tell you where a lot of these folks are wanting to move and be, just because firsthand experience. And that is why I'm here. I'm here to benefit you guys. I'm here to provide you with hopefully very valuable information that helps you and gives you a compass of moving to Lubbock, Texas. Now, if you're considering it, please call me, please email me. I would love to help you. I would love to represent you as a client. I deal with all sorts of folks all the time. So anyway, we can hop on a phone call, Zoom meet, whatever, and I will make you hopefully feel comfortable about moving to Lubbock, that it's a good, safe option for you and your family. So if you want a good idea of what life here is really like, click on this video. It might be here, it might be here, it might be here, but it's gonna tell you a lot about the pros and cons of living in Lubbock, Texas. So we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much for tuning in. Toodles.